Hello everyone and welcome to my oil painting class. And today we're painting Scottish Munros. And the inspirational artist I've picked up for us is Nicholas Rerich, a Russian artist who absolutely loved the Himalayas and explored the culture of the mountains and the region, and just painted while traveling through them. I'm especially interested in the range of colors Rerich has painted these two scenes, and I'm linking them to our Scottish Munros and planning to just increase that vibrancy of color. But the composition we've got from my photograph. I'm using orange background. Any variation of the orange is fine. And on my palette, I have some white, cadmium yellow, ochre, alizarin crimson, magenta or rose madder, any of those, violet, ultramarine, cobalt blue or cerulean. I just got some extra white as well. So I might use some white with blues and some white with warm colors. So the plan is we're going to sketch our composition. You don't have to put me on the picture. But I'm interested in borrowing some of the kind of colors from Rerich's work. So for example, this foreground here, there's lovely yellows and lovely oranges and pinks. Really good idea how we can paint some of the rocky ridge here. Perhaps some of those browns and again some of the pinks and reds could come on the larger part of the mountain here. Perhaps further ridge might have some more pinks and blues, and perhaps even further layers, and perhaps even if we're very adventurous, these clouds could be all painted with some of the blues, or we can even enlarge them and turn them into some exciting further distant mountains. So you might have an option there to go with the clouds or with some extra mountains. Right, so what I'm going to do, because we're going to have a lot of cool colors at the back, I'm going to use a little bit of white and a little bit of ultramarine to start sketching our composition. So if I'll use some terps rather than oil, a little bit of terps and tiny bit of white. The white is there, so the color is not too dark, but it's going to be close to the colors we'll be using later on. So we're not going to be over darkening the blues. Okay, so nice and runny, so we can just sketch it out. Right, so let's find perhaps our largest ridge, largest peak, and maybe how much space we want to use for the front ledge. That's lovely curvature here. So perhaps let's decide where our mountain peak is going to be. If this is our halfway through the photograph, it's almost just off that center. Might just leave a little bit extra space for the sky or the further distant space. Okay, and let's look at that shape against the orange background. Looks quite bold and quite strong, but actually the blue color got a bit of a gray to it, so it neutralizes the color a little bit as well. Right, let's have a look at the slope on the left-hand side. Okay, perhaps somewhere there, and perhaps that lovely border, kind of the backbone of the mountain. Yeah, it's almost kind of that terrain. How it's coming here, and how it's kind of sloping down towards the bottom left corner. Okay. And that ridge is going, looks like shallow, but it's quite a steep ridge as well. Okay. Might just help us to find some of those shadows, and it gives us that steepness. So don't be scared of sketching and redrawing and adding. Maybe this one even dips in and then goes up. Okay. And sometimes it's easier to draw with more straightish lines rather than a soft round ones. Gives us more definition of the terrain, no matter what we're painting, if it's a landscape, if it's a still life, portraiture, giving us that structure a little bit. Okay. I might use some of the ridges lines just to identify kind of the steepness of the shape as well. And to find a good slope for the silhouette of the mountain, if you look at the sky and just kind of go against that shape, I think that might be an easier kind of comparison to that negative space. Okay. And then I'm going to find my horizon, where it's gonna kind of come and cut into the mountain peak here. Okay. And then perhaps even finding this valley, that V shape for the valley. And then from that point, we can decide on the mountains. You can exaggerate them, make them slightly taller. That ridge is coming up approximately, because we will be working with color. I just make it a tiny bit more lighter so I can actually see the line. Okay. And perhaps little valleys, stream, river. It's kind of the base of it where these lines gonna go that way, and the other side of the valley, all that glacier carved there, that valley just gives us a little bit more form of what we're looking at. We have the other Munros on the other side. So we've got Glencoe there. So this might be something here. That's the main road there, another parallel, that kind of the valley opposite to this hidden valley. Okay. And while I'm at the sketching stage, I'm gonna give it a go to add some more mountains, but maybe they will be more imaginary mountains. I really love these peaks, and they, if you kind of glance at the painting, where it might be the clouds, it might be the mountains. So, and my clouds are just so close to that marvelous feel of light, so I might just play with it. Okay, got a nice slope, looks like a slope of light and darkness there. So if you decide at this stage to go for the clouds, just to look for some overall shape for the clouds. I'm still going kind of looking for the shape of the clouds, but can I turn it to more of a mountains, and maybe just subtones of them might just have that glimpse. Is that the mountains? That's more of a mirage of them through them vision in the sky. And that's quite often seen in Rerich's work. He might put some of them shamans or some of the mystics or religious figures, or there might be just everyday Nepalese walking around and just doing their just going their path, and then they might be seeing something in those mountains. There might be almost a legend opens up in the sky or through the mountains. Fascinating paintings to look through. So perhaps my light is going to be my cloud stroke mountains. Okay, and I think I'm ready with the outlines, with the composition, and let's have a look at our colors. Right, and I think we might start with our sky and our blues. So again, I'd love to go through the range of blues. So we've got our cerulean blue, our ultramarine, perhaps even later on violet as we go down. So any paler blues going down, that's going to stay there. Okay, then the purples and pinks, we're probably going to go somewhere here, maybe some distant parts of our mountain here. Then loads of browns and then some yellows at the front. Right, so let's go for a larger brush first. And let's bring some lovely, exciting blues and whites at the back. So let's have a little bit of the plainer blue from cerulean. So I'm going to have some white with my oil and some cerulean. Okay, now because we've got a bold background in orange, we're going to see how the flat blue will come through. But if we'll have some texture, that will be really exciting as well. So I'm going to plan, just looking at some of the sky here, because my sky is quite overcast and a little bit boring, unless you're doing some exciting clouds. And I'm going to follow a similar formula in Rerich's work. So plain cerulean blue with some white. We can gently vary it from tiny bit darker tone higher up to tiny bit more lighter one. Okay, so I'm just going to do a simple silhouette here. And I'm going to keep on working on parts of the sky, perhaps somewhere here. Maybe a little bit more on this side, so quite straightforward first. Okay. Right, next I'm going to use the sharp borders of some of the mountains. If you paint in clouds, you can still apply it in quite sharp areas, kind of sharp, with having some sharp borders, and then soften them, and you'll end up with some soft clouds formations. So I'm going to bring some of just a little bit of extra, just enough white. So my brush is not overly clean. So I'm just going for white, but a little bit of blue comes off, and that off-white is going to be there. And I'm going to look for some of the shapes of whites which are left in one of the paintings. All at the same time, I'm looking at my mountains and just seeing how they could have been reminding me those beautiful shapes here as well. Right, that's looking a bit too similar. Triangle size. Okay, maybe that will go. So I'm going to work out my design of the mountains as I'm painting, just by putting some blocks of color first. Okay. So just a little bit of extra white, and then I'll start adding some more varieties of blues to that. So the white comes in reasonably thick. If you see a little bit of orange background, it just will give us that beautiful warmth. So don't worry about that. Okay. It's almost like little borders I've done now first. And I'm going to look for some slopes. So let's have a look how some of the slopes might come in. So I'm going to leave some of the gaps for darker blues. Okay. And then some of the mountains got a little bit of clouds there as well. So is that part of the mountain? Is that part of the cloud? A bit of both. I might just keep my main mountains ridge together. Okay, maybe a little hint of the cloud there. Okay, so if there is a snowy peak, might see it soft. Okay. Right, and I'm going to start adding some of the blues at the back. So I'm going to go for both little bits of cerulean, a little bit of ultramarine. And then I can go more direct cerulean, I can go more direct ultramarine as well. As long as it will be just a gentle variety of tone. Now, I think that might be a little bit too dark. Okay, let's have a look. You can even pick up one of the mountain ranges and almost partially copy it. It's will give you a reference point. I think that clashes a little bit with my sky, but it's almost clashes here as well. So perhaps I can darken it a little bit eventually. Okay, there's some narrow strokes, there's some wider strokes. Okay, maybe this is going to be my tiny bit more of my sky if I've eaten it away. Okay, it's quite exciting pattern work of the blues here. I just go for a little bit more ultramarine now. Because we have quite a lot of white, if you go for slightly darker color, it will mix with the white and you will end up with some paler shapes as well. Yeah, I've just over painted my mountains, but that's okay. I'll come back to them. Okay. Nicholas Roerich painted quite a lot in oils, but on his travels, he used what's the paint called? It will come back to me in a moment. Almost acrylic-like, but in 19th century paints, which were drying quite quickly. So his ridges of the mountains are quite sharp, but it will be quite nice and soft for us painting it in oils. So what I'm doing now, so I've done some big shapes. I'm gonna start sharpening them up, sharpening them now. I put in a little bit more contrast marks on the border with the whites, and also just bringing a little bit of ultramarine just to sharpen some of the contrasts. In this dark one, just no, just there's a line. I'm interested in shapes. So kind of try to keep the colors a little bit flat, and then the depths will come in from these variety of flat shapes. Okay. If you overpaint anything with the blue, you can always come back. We can, first of all, we can scratch it off and bring a different color, or maybe a little bit of white, or a little bit more, change the shape. But because we're within the same color scheme, that will be quite easy to adjust. My brush is getting me a little too similar strokes, so I might, after I've done some of the larger shapes here, I might consider picking up a smaller brush. Okay, let's do anything else a little bit darker blues. I quite like some of these beautiful darker blues. So that mysterious mountain ridge, is it actually there? Is it part of our imagination? It's lovely to see some of the areas are very flat color, and some of the areas you can see that three-dimensional blend. I might try a little bit of a blend here. So just pointy corners and sharper kind of triangle shapes, and we're in the right direction. This looks quite exciting. Mountains, clouds. Okay, that's too dark. Yeah, tiny bit more definition somewhere here. Okay. I might just tidy a little bit of my white. What I'll do, I'll wipe my brush without cleaning it and tips. Just wipe it and keep it dry, and then just lift some dry white and with little chunks of white, tidy anything might look. Maybe create some more fresher corners or fresher line directions. There will be our icy ridges. And just keep up. If the brush gets clogged up with some paint, just wipe it off and then top it up again with some fresh white. And any sharper lines, just play with them. Create your own little ridges and little playful marks. I just tidy this up as well. So having a point on my brush, kind of a flat corner, gives me an opportunity to have just that little bit of sharpness in some of the strokes. I don't have to keep all the strokes sharp. That's the beauty of our oil painting. Bring some of that boldness and bringing the softness, kind of having both qualities available to the paint. I just make it a little less of this white. Okay. It's good. Just tidy this line as well. Okay, no, I don't want a red line. Okay. Lovely. I'm painting a little bit further over my mountain close to me, so then I can bring that silhouette a little bit more stronger. Okay, I think I'm happy with my blues. Any other sharper blues on the left hand side? Maybe just increasing darkness. Okay, it's quite strong, but I think it might connect to our sharper browns at the front. I don't want it to be a line, I want it to be a shape. Some of the angles reflect for me, so just making sure that I actually see it right as it is in the picture. Okay. So next. So now let's have a look at this middle ground. Well, kind of, it's quite far away still, but that middle ground for us into some of these pinks and violets. So I'm probably going to start with ultramarine and a little bit of violet first. So my white is as a base there. And I'm going to go for my ultramarine. Okay, and I'm going to go for some violet. Now, if I look at my photograph, I can see this ridge is dark and this most left kind of little part of the valley is dark. So those ones I'll make probably that's most darker bluish purple color. And the other ones kind of, so anything in between, that's when the purples could come in, the pinks could come in. That's when we can use our rose madder and purples. Right, so I'm not sure if that's as dark enough. So I might have a little stronger ultramarine and violet. Okay. And now I'm going to bring back my pointy shapes. I'm still using my larger brush, but if you need a smaller one to get, or maybe a flat square brush to get a little more sharper points, that's absolutely fine. Okay, so I'm just doing more of a line, more of a simple shape first, so then I can turn it into a block of color, and then I can even add more color afterwards, almost like how we were breaking down into shapes, distant mountains, clouds. Okay, so what could happen here? Okay, and anything we want to stretch down just into those varieties, just allows us to, using some bolder color, to explore those lovely edges and shapes, the form, what's happened there. That might be my shadow on the bottom of my brown mountain. And then in this corner is going to have a little exaggerated color as well. If sometimes blending looks like it's a three-dimensional blending, maybe turn it to a flatter shape at this stage. Maybe we'll not do as much blending yet. Okay, and I also want to have something of that color of kind of darkness. We can change the color. We can make it more, let's say, violet. I'm gonna maybe go a bit more violet. But I want to have the back of my larger mountain perhaps stronger cooler color before going to my browns. So that will contrast beautifully with the cloud stroke mountain at the back. Okay, there is any less perfect silhouette. It's actually coming beautifully with our orange background now as well. Might do a tiny bit more here, but then the browns and violets will mix together. Okay, so then I'm ready, so I can see that lovely again directional line. So that might just keep it together. Okay. Right, so I've done my purpley blues. Now I'm going just to wipe my brush and start working with my pinks. So perhaps rose madder, purple or magenta, and some of that paler violet. So just to make it more purpley, something in between. And I might just paint the gaps between those purple blues first, and then break it down into some shapes, maybe add some extra light, build up some of the valleys terrain there. So blocking first, almost like what we did with the whites and the blues. Some white first, we just had a shadow first, then a little bit of blue we had on the clouds, and now we're just adding a bit of pink, and then we'll just unite them a bit more together. I can vary my pink in darkness. Yeah, I can just go a little bit more stronger, darker, a little bit lighter. So those purples will start being different as well. Oh, just feel like, oh, I don't really want to lose that bold orange. Right, maybe I'll go more stronger pink in there at the back. Leaving some of this orange just as a little playfulness of color. I really feel the shame to cover it all up. Maybe even lifting some of the bold violet to bring some of the orange back as well. Let's have a look. Right, so some more pink. Maybe let's have some more ridges here. So I'm applying the color almost like just bringing it to the surface, but I don't like the uneven kind of strokes how I was just applying it. So I'm almost mixing the color with the previous layer on my board and then evenly spreading it. And then any smudges happens, that becomes more artistic approach. Yeah. Okay, so that might be a shape. Could there be something off on the mountain here as well? And that red on top of the violet looks slightly differently. Okay, and if we need to sharpen anything up, we can bring the darker colors back. It's easier to sharpen things up. Always much paler color, let's say how I was bringing the whites, always much darker. Purple absorbs, violet and purple both absorb our red, so we can tidy anything we do with a violet or purple. Okay, that's come out very dark, but it's quite exciting as well. So partially as I'm painting, in this corner everything is reflecting, so I need to lean away to actually see the true color. So I'm trying to do maybe a little bit of the valley. Okay. So if there is a little blending going, that's all good as well. But overall, bigger blocks. Very exciting. I think I might add a little more extra darkness. So when our first shapes of blue were building up, our background orange looked a little bit foreign. Now with the pinks and purples, and the orange looks very exciting. I might put something else here. Almost those inner glows of color. And you can come up with all sorts of solutions here. Just let yourself play with the paints. Let yourself stretch the colors into those elongated forms and see what happens. All right, I think I might just put a little bit of pale color on this on the right hand side of the painting as well, and come back to the valley on the left. Just want to see that area a little bit shrunk, so I can see that extra steep ridge there, and then there is change of lines, change of direction. One is that way, one is this way on the photograph. So that's where I'm going to slightly change that angle when this one goes almost that way. And yes, there will be some more browns, browny reds, but that's again still preparing it and linking it distance-wise. Flat spaces first, and then we can add subtones. Right, anything else back here? But doesn't quite link to my other mountain here. Okay, that's more exciting. So a little bit of extra pink for me here. Okay, that's my bit too light pink. I'll just see if I can smudge it into a darker color. Yeah, the paints where he's used was tempera. Yeah, egg-based colors, which are so close to, probably closest out of watercolors and oils to modern acrylics. Got that opaque quality as well. Just gonna try not to over paint this area. Okay, it's looking good. Maybe something a bit more fresher pink for this corner. White and pink. My earlier pink just looked a little similar to the orange, which I probably will preserve some of the orange with my browns. So that's my thought, if I'll have more of a pink connection in that mid-ground. Maybe a little pink connection here as well. Oh, slopes. That's so lovely to do with oils. Okay. We're doing very much stylized landscape today. There is a lot of colorful meaning of how these mountains make us feel. That wonder, that marvel, that excitement. Okay. Might have a little bit, well, on those pinks, a little bit of light into the stream, river, a bit of water in the valley. Just little glimpses of tiny bit of white or drags of white. Very exciting. Right, before we finish our darker ridge of a mountain, I think we might just move into some of the yellows to see how much of the orange we want to preserve. That lovely dark, well, mine's almost like crimsony orange, cadmium red, cadmium orange. So I've cleaned my brush and I'm going to now use my other cleaner white so I can have much more fresher yellow. There is no purple in it. If you have a little bit of pink, that's fine. But as long as we don't have any blue or purple in our yellow, because it will give us a mucky color as a combination. So this is just cadmium yellow and white. Okay, I might just place it on my board. I think it might be a little bit too strong. I just want to see how it will sit there. I think if I were to go a little bit deeper, perhaps with some ochre. Okay, ochre is very dark. Maybe something in between. I'm interested into that, into getting almost like a Van Gogh yellow. So if you want to have tiny bit of pink to make it deeper yellow, if you've got deeper cadmium deep yellow, that's might be still not deep enough. We just want to have that a little bit of orangey feel. Let's test it out. I think that's better. My earlier color just looks a little bit too white, but it might be some of my rocks might have that yellowish look. So, okay. So let's have a little bit of that bold orangey yellow. Applied here first. I'm looking for this element of prairie painting. So I've got almost like a clear, cleaner surface. So I'm looking at my photograph and I'm seeing that more cleaner, open, exposed to light and exposed without any too busyness of the rocks and kind of that terrain. Okay, maybe something will come up here as well. It just shows that form. So if I've got a little bit of a narrower line or maybe some light coming on my ridge later on, I'm just going to introduce some of that orange a little bit here, but it will be blending with my blues, with my browns and violets here. But it's almost like spine of a dragon goes up, then it's almost as it's and turns, get narrow, and again widens up. Okay. And to make my rocks, I will leave them out for probably the last part. I'm going to start working into some of the darknesses of the rocks, so I can have a little more or any of your pinks or alizarin crimson. Maybe not the purple yet. Maybe leave the purples out. I had a little bit of ochre here as well, so that gives me slightly darker tone. Okay. And I'm going to start some kind of prepping the areas. It's not as bold as my orange background, but it's something in between. It's kind of softens my yellow here. Maybe even all over this one. Okay, and I'm going to start introducing a little bit of crimson and ochre together. Will give me a darker tone, kind of almost a brownish red. And I could start thinking of, okay, if those are going to be my some of the exposed edges of the rocks, maybe a tiny bit more, even darker. So when I'm going in a lighter color, it's not lighten too quickly. So how some of these shapes will come in. The tricky part here is to make a range of shapes. So not going to be all of the same widths or lengths or direction. Okay, direction is easy, but the widths of the shapes might be tricky. And the further we go in away from us, we need to make sure that the strokes become smaller to show that perspective as well. Maybe almost. I might just put some of these rocks as well somewhere here. Get a bit too similar here. Can I combine them into one? Okay. These are almost like our big shapes and silhouettes of some of the initial rocks. We'll maybe put something here, a little texture. We'll see, maybe we'll combine it together with our browns of the mountain. Maybe they will become a shape after. I'm just testing some colors here. Okay, but what we can do next, definitely picking up a smaller brush now. And I'm gonna go with my violet. Probably direct violet will be fine as well. Because I'm gonna apply it on the existing colors. Going to kind of define some of the shapes of the rocks. So for example, I could have an edge, maybe a bottom for it. Yeah, maybe split it into a group of rocks and shapes. Okay, that might be almost like a stone wall, but kind of any of those dark outlines which will define some of our shapes. It would have all different widths and sizes. The further we go, we can have tiny bit thinner lines or even just the blocks of darkness, because the highlights on the rocks will come after. Okay, come on here as well. Maybe my rocks are a little bit too precise, a little bit too perfect. Maybe when I'll start adding some lighter color, I can make them a bit more various, a little bit more random in shape and how they've been thrown about here. Direct violet does the work. It connects with colors on our picture, and it's not transparent. It already gives it its body. Good to kind of play with the darks, but also we're going to shortly stop and test our lighter tone before we know if this is working for us, which will work. Okay, so a little bit of yellow, a little bit more darker orangey color, a little more stone pattern, and then the shadows. And now I'm going to pick another brush, maybe a medium-sized to small brush, and let's mix our yellow again, yellow and white, and I think that was our color. I'm not using any oil. If you want to have tiny bit of it, if the paint is really thick and stiff to apply, but the thicker you go with paint now, the less oil you'll have on the brush. The easiest will be for you to apply it on top, because we already have quite a lot of paint on the surface. Right, so what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to paint kind of the tops, or kind of insert that light, and I will constantly have to pick up fresh paint to create, okay, maybe a little bit too bold, but I think it will be fine. So if I'll go tiny bit darker on some of the rocks and tiny bit lighter on others, so there will be facing the light in different ways, so that's why they will start having different light on them as well. So I'm doing a stroke and I'm loading fresh color. You can move your brown borders, or just almost then like insert the paint and the brown borders almost like move about. Okay. Almost like give way. If you want to keep some of the colors of existent rocks as they are, that's fine as well. So just play with them, just see how adding color here and there works. Maybe leave something out. You can always paint it after. It gives us just that extra details and texture. So I'm painting them as blocking, focusing on individual rocks, blocking kind of shapes we discovered. But I'm not thinking of this whole area as does it work together yet? Okay, I probably will come and smudge some of these rocks and hide some in the soil and make some more distinguished. So far I'm just creating the stones. So if you painting very preciously and very precise, yes, I will be smudging some of them. Okay, anything else here? Maybe for the little bit lower area on the right. Kind of more of a hint rather than too much. I think the darker tones are quite nice. Maybe the light is slightly changing now. Right, and next I'm just going to gently tidy things up and see if I can just move my lighter color and smudge some of the darker purples so they're not all giving kind of taking their attention. So I'm just going to almost get rid of some. Okay, the others become much more important now. Okay, this is maybe tidy this area up. Okay. Almost makes me like I'm building up that road or that bridge, making it less clean and precise, but now making it a little bit more walked on, weathered. Some of it will remain as it is. Mhm. Might need a tiny bit of fresh yellow. Where I just smudged this one here. So if I remove some of the thicker paint here, so then I can insert a little bit more fresher yellow. So I'm back to white and fresh yellow. It feels like then it will be looking more of a, okay, that looks too white. Okay, we didn't have just direct yellow, we had it more orange yellow. Okay, that's why it looks too white. So that's competing with my surfaces of the rocks. Better. A little flatter, so it's not too perfect. or not too full of texture, just something in between. Okay, doesn't look a fresh color here. Just use my palette knife to remove some of that thicker paint. And introduce my fresher color. Okay, that's better. It's my yellow brick road from the fairy tale. So we've got everything is legends and myths and fairy tales meet in one place. Flatter surface. Now I've got a better color. Okay, that's looking better. It's nice and playful. Just a lovely range of colors, lovely playful strokes. The rocks are there, but they're a bit more lost and found. We're not overly precious about them. Okay, that's good. A little bit of brighter connection here. Good. A little bit more shadows in my path from some of the stones. Just looking back at my photograph as that reference point, perhaps a little bit of narrower and slightly wider shapes. Tiny bit extra reflecting. It's actually looking a darker brown rather than grayish. I think it's just a light here on the camera. A bit of that darkness. And let's have a look at our mountain, and then we can tweak and unite things together. Just in case if I have got quite a lot of details here. I want to see the darker silhouette of the mountain and make the decision of offsetting shapes, knowing how bold it is. Right, I'm going to be back using my larger brush now, and let's get some lovely browns and reds together. Now we're going to mix the brown from some of the purple and combination of purple and violet and reds, a bit of ochre perhaps as well. So this is my violet. I'm going to go for some alizarin crimson. Now I haven't added any white yet. It gives me a really nice and strong dark color on its own, so we can always have it as a reference point how to come back to that darkness. If I use a small amount of ochre, it will just make it more opaque, and we can see its intensity. It's almost like Van Dyke brown. Okay, let's find perhaps the peak. I have loads of white here, so I might need more intensity of violet. If I'll do overall colors, I can then come back to the silhouette of the mountain, how it will stand out against the whites. Right, so left-hand side of this peak has more of the darkness, so we can vary. Can bring more crimson in some of the strokes. We can bring more violet in other strokes. So we can change the color, and the color will be mixing with the blues here, so it will be kind of adapting to that environment. That's quite exciting. And then I can add a little more ochre. I can add a little bit more pink, or if you add in pink, maybe pink and a little bit of white. So let's see how some of the ochre will come in. Okay, I'm still keen to bring keep some of the lovely orange. So perhaps for the right-hand side slope where we have some light, I might use some of the colors a little bit more transparent so we can see that orange. Okay, so let's bring that darkness still here. I think I want more crimson. And the fresh blue sits beautifully together. Okay, it's almost like a foggy, hazy corner here. I can sharpen a little bit of it. And maybe have another slope showing it's all part of the similar terrain. I'm going more towards the pinks and violets. I'll bring maybe more of a violet color this time. So I'm mixing the color on the surface by just putting some smaller strokes and just changing the direction gently so it looks like a flatter pattern. It's going in. Yeah, kind of in and out of each other color. Okay, a little bit of pink here. Okay, this area will need to be darker, but just a little bit here might just afford a little pink. And then back again to some violet. And overall, the colors do look brown, but there are mainly violets and crimsons. And I'm going to define my path here now. That's why I've left it a little plainer here on the edge. Okay, the two shapes looking too similar here, so maybe I'll need to merge them. Again, I want to put a little more violet here. If it starts looking too black, I can always add a hint of pink with it. If I would have added white, it would have been too bold, white light, but just a small amount of pink kind of dilutes the intensity of it. Okay, ended up with a bit of a line here, so let's change it into a flatter shape. And that dragon's like bone of a backbone. I think I'm going to put something dark to medium darkness for the slope here. Lovely crimson smudges very easily with the oranges, and the colors belong together immediately. Also makes a connection with our orange back of the mountain and the pinks, oranges further up. I think I'll put a little bit of that red somewhere here. So my path makes now more sense and more. It's kind of a path, it's a ridge, it's something in between. Extra violet. Just want to have a contrast. A little bit of strokes, but at the same time, I do need that form and the shape. Yeah, that's good. That's all fine. Might add a little bit stronger violet to my purpley corner here. Just to have again that connection. It is the same mountain. It's getting closer to us, so it's slowly gets more contrasts and attention in the focal point of view. And let's pay a bit more attention to the mountain peak. I quite like how pointy it's ended up. It's a little bit more shallow on the photo. Might just add its top a little wider. And then a little bumpy silhouette. Okay. Right, and what I'm gonna do next, I'm going to partially clean my brush. I want just to take some of the majority of the darker paint. So I'm just washing it in tips because I want to apply a bit more transparent color so I can keep some of that orange in, but partially it will be covered. And I'm gonna go, I think, for my crimson. So I'm gonna drag kind of the diluted crimson with borders of the violet and just see how that will work, because I want the purple to be present. If it will be too much texture, it might be a bit tricky. Right, maybe a little bit of white and perhaps a little bit of warmth there. Yeah, I think that's maybe a bit too transparent for everything else. It's got that lovely flat look. Right, so I'm gonna go for white, a bit of ochre and crimson. Okay, maybe it's some of that. Just want to hide maybe some of my pink. Some more violet and crimson together. Okay, a bit more flatter color. I'm going to establish that light on the flat surface. Well, not flat surface, on the flatter right-hand side of the mountain here. Okay, just gonna tidy all of that together. And hopefully it will start linking with my primed orange. And perhaps I could just leave some of it. Alternatively, I could mix some fresh orange and just apply the fresh orange. Oh, I think that's looking good. So then my browns of the mountain are here. The orange is partially still here. This distant pink I applied earlier could have combination of pink and that brownie color as well. So that will link them together, and some of it stays pink, shows that distance. Okay, that looks like a little bit more of a further distance space of light. Blues are very nice. Okay, and gonna bring a little bit of this color over as well, as it might be reflecting light. It might be just to show that steepness and connection with these lines, these ridges we were making. That's made it extra tall. because of my steeper angled shapes. Just want them to be varied. Okay. Good. This yellow looks too bold. I think I will cover that up, just make it a tiny bit lighter, but I will cover it up. And from that yellow, all I needed was that connection. So if I'll have a darker version of that yellow, overall it will appear as light. Might just have enough. Okay. Good. And just checking any of my lines have two similar widths. Can I kind of vary that if I need to come back to the shadow, just to vary that width of the light. Unite in a few more shapes here. Quite a lot of reflective surfaces here, so if you can move your picture around so it doesn't reflect, so you can see the whole piece without it's reflecting, that will be the best thing to evaluate it. Okay, right, any other connections I need to make? So some of that orange I kept as my prime board. I think that's enough of that orange there. This blue, I love this blue. Can I put any more of that fresh, beautiful blue in this corner, maybe in part of the shadow? I think I can do that. And perhaps if I were to use a tissue and just change the angle by wiping paint and making my orange background come back. Just to changing the angle a little bit. Just keep turning my tissue, getting some cleaner white spirit. That's exciting red. It's exciting red. Good, good, good. Couple of blue elements, and I think I'm done. I'll still have one clean brush about. So if I'll go for fresh white and the ultramarine, which I should have just enough. Maybe a tiny bit more. I think it will look too light. Making my own ultramarine from cerulean blue and some violet, because I only need a little bit, and that variation will be absolutely fine. Right, and let's see where we can put this fresh blue. That's good. If you feel you're happy without introducing extra blues, you're absolutely fine. Don't have to go any further from there. Okay, I'm just gonna do a little bit of that introduction. It's almost my light from the browns and pinks becomes slightly cooler. To similar size. Yeah, that's better. It's there, but it's not too strong. And perhaps something a little bit more here. And just making sure that shapes don't look too the same. And that could actually go even further down here. Yeah, that blue definitely needs a little extra stronger ultramarine for the last stroke or so. So I'm putting it on the top of the mountain, and that's my current blue is too light. Just put a good shape of a stroke. Color is looking good. And my final strokes are right here in the foreground. Again, I think it just links the colors from the back to the colors on the right hand side, and unites them together as well. Okay, I think I'm ready to stop. Very exciting. Loads of things going on. Most beautiful color choices and combinations. Got lovely depths, personal interpretation with some artist inspiration for us. And that depth of the landscape, that fascination with mountains was there as well, which is the most important thing here for me. So thank you very, very much for today. I hope you had as much fun as I did. And I'm very much looking forward to see your versions.